All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Alyssa Kropinka, and I'm the event coordinator for McNally Robinson Booksellers in Saskatoon. This event is coming to you from Treaty 6 territory, the traditional lands of the Cree, Saulteaux, Dene, Dakota, Lakota, Nakota, and Métis nations. Just to note that this event is being live streamed to our YouTube page, so please be aware of the webcam behind you. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the Saskatoon launch of Connecting with Your True North While Finding Your Way Home by Tammie Leonard, published by Stoke Publishing. Thank you to Tammie for being here tonight and for working with us to create this event. I'd also like to thank our guest speaker for the evening, Joey Genero, for being here. I'll tell you a bit about our guests. Joey is a member of Atakakup Cree Nation and joins us tonight to share his story of recovery and healing. Joey has been sober for 4 years. Tammie Leonard is a mental wellness author, engaging motivational speaker, and mindset coach. She shares her years of experience and knowledge to help others believe that they too can heal and recover from their mental health, addictions, or grief challenges, just as she did. I'll now turn things over to Tammie. Please give her a warm welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. What a pleasure it is to be here this evening. You matter, mental health matters. And because it's Mental Health Awareness Month, in the short time that we have together this evening, I would like to share a little bit about my journey through mental health and the silver lining that led me to creating mental health material, and to leave you with some of the tips and tools that I've used over the years while I was struggling with my mental health. So, hands up, let's be honest. How many of you have struggled for mental health, addictions, or grief, or know of someone who has? Right, all of us. So let's talk mental health. I want you to think about buying a new pair of shoes. So you try the shoes on and they're a little bit tight, but you really like the shoes. And you think, oh, I'm going to buy the shoes anyway. So you buy the shoes because you know that every time you put those shoes on, they're going to stretch a little bit. They're going to become more comfortable. And that's what it's like talking about mental health. Some of us feel very uncomfortable with it, but the more we do it, the more comfortable we become with talking about mental health. We need to talk. We need to share our stories, and we need to listen to ourselves and to others. So my story. Many years ago, I suffered horrifically with an out-of-the-blue panic attack, shortness of breath, heart pounding, weak to the knees, which led to days and months of being in the fetal position on my couch, years of recovery, which also led to OCD, which is obsessive compulsive disorder, and depression. I can only describe the feelings that I had as one of which you had your child tied to a railroad track, and all you could do was watch the oncoming locomotive. Nothing you could do about it. In my darkest days, I would lay frozen in sheer panic, with my heart racing, with all those body sensations going on, feeling completely helpless and hopeless. One of the worst things that I vividly remember was that I was always so sure that I was going to have a heart attack because my heart was always thumping and bumping and racing. I was even scared to walk too fast because I was sure any of those slight movements would cause that heart attack. So picture it, me laying on my bed, clutching my Bible, praying to God, please, please don't let me have a heart attack. I was 29 years old. I was extremely healthy, but I feared that I was going to drop dead at any minute from a heart attack. Like, good grief. My mom, who I've always been so blessed to have on this crazy journey with me, had the best solution. She said, you know, Tammie, if you're scared to walk and get exercise, which is so vital to mental health, she said, why don't you go to the parking lot of the hospital and you can power walk around the parking lot. And then should you have that heart attack you're so sure you're going to have, the doctors are right there. Well, that was the beginning of me believing that everything is figureoutable. But also it was the beginning of knowing that I wasn't alone. There was others out there who would help me. There was help and there was hope. Another example of the effects that my anxiety had on me was not being able to take a dish out of my cupboard without washing it for fear the germs would cause another attack. And I would do anything to not experience those feelings again. And that led to, of course, not being able to eat pretty much anything because I was, again, so scared of the reaction my body would have to the food and that I'd have a heart attack that was waiting just around the corner. So I quickly lost a whole lot of weight, which wasn't helpful. And I remember one time my husband and I were sitting in a restaurant having supper. So I was down to eating things like apples, fries, rice, blah. And so I ordered my fries, he ordered his meal. And I looked at my plate and the tears just started to flow. He looked at me, he goes, "What's wrong?" I said, "There's seasoning on the fries." "There's seasoning on the fries." I said, "There's seasoning on my fries. I can't eat them." I was just crying. And he looked at me and he said, "So don't eat the fries." That was another moment when I thought, you know what? Be kind to yourself. We all need to feel kindness for ourselves, to remember that we're not broken. We are not unfixable. Our life isn't hopeless. And so be kind to yourself. And of course, be kind to those who are struggling, because how often do we not have any idea about the people around us and what they're being through? So fear. I was always frozen by the what if fear. What if it happened again? I didn't know what it was, but I was terrified that it was going to happen. And I would do anything to avoid it. But you see, everything is figure outable. With a little positive action, we can all find the tools that will take us a step through our suffering. So, for some, trying to overcome their fears and worries, fear of failure, fear of relapse, their mental health fears, the first step might be medication. I'm a firm believer in medication while people are trying to get through what they're struggling with and learn to use the tools that will help them. But I was also terrified of anything that I would put into my mouth. And so medication was out. However, the silver lining in that horrific experience was that I decided this was not the way I wanted to live my life. This was not the existence I wanted. And so I started to research. I researched everything and anything on anxiety, OCD, agoraphobia, which was huge for me, and agoraphobia is fear of the wide open spaces. So it's a very difficult thing for someone with agoraphobia to even cross the street. And this is how my journey began of recovery. Bit by bit, I took back control. And this was not going to be my story. Was it easy? Hell no, it was not. But there's always help and there's always hope, especially when we can decide that we can put one foot in front of the other and take a few steps forward and maybe a few steps backwards towards our healing and recovery. And I want to make it very clear that asking for help is not a sign of weakness. Asking for help is a sheer act of courage and strength. And there's this wonderful piece when you realize you're not alone. It's okay to ask for help. Feelings of loneliness have become a huge factor in this vast impact on the mental health in our society. We're not alone. So what I learned from my research and the power of journaling, which I'd always done, and the power of gratitude. And did you know that when you are feeling grateful, you cannot feel any other emotion? You cannot feel sad. You cannot feel cranky. You cannot feel anxious. So I highly recommend practicing gratitude, even for the smallest of things. And then there was the power of affirmations, which are short, positive, powerful statements that when you repeat them often, become your guiding light. And your subconscious mind, which believes everything we tell it, starts to believe what you're feeding. So whatever follows your I am, follows you. So you want to make it something positive. Most of my material and my books follow along with the legend of two worlds, which is two worlds, good and evil. And the main idea behind that is that we are what we feed ourselves. So we want to feed our minds something healthy and strong and positive. And affirmations do that. An example of that is saying, I'm a worthless addict versus I am growing stronger every day as I recover from my addiction. Or I'm never going to get better. It's just too hard. Versus I'm worth the effort it takes to be healthy and whole. I hear Creator's voice saying, today may be hard, but tomorrow will be better. Do not quit before the miracle happens. I handed out each of you a business card, and on the back of that card, I want you to write 3 positive things about yourself. So it could be strong, courageous, best mom ever. 3 positive things about yourself. So often when I ask people to do this, they really struggle with saying 3 positive things about themselves. So now what I'm going to have you do is I would like you to turn to the person beside you if you're in a group of 3. And I want you to say to that person what is on your card. So if it was Joey and I would say, I am strong, courageous, and brave. And Joey's going to repeat back to me what I said to him. Only he's going to say, you are strong, courageous, and brave. Got it? Find a partner quick.
Okay, you say, I am. Oh, yeah, wait a second. You are there. No, considering. Oh, I am. I am. And so I have capable, you are a professional, you are an expert, and I study this. And you be. I'm easy. That's not what I did. That's not on my card. I am funny, smart.
So the whole idea behind that, and I love doing it at my workshops and presentations, is that it's hard enough for us to say something positive about ourselves. But when we hear it back as a you are, sometimes it's even harder to listen to what people are saying. Like, oh, wow, that's me that they're talking about. So I encourage you to keep those statements close by and look at them when you need a little of encouragement. I am strong, courageous, and brave. Repeat them lots. Your subconscious mind will begin to believe them. One of the best and easiest things that I did in the depths of my anxiety and fear was to visualize a big red stop sign. So every time I had a negative thought, and it was a lot, I would visualize a big red stop sign. And that was my sign, my signal to stop that thought and switch it to something positive, which could be the affirmations that you were just repeating to each other. So that's kind of the action piece, right? If we're not taking action on the tools and things that we learn, then it's all for naught, really. So, action. We can retrain our brains. They will mold and become something better than we think we have up there. You just need to talk to yourself in a little better manner. So love and fear. Love and fear are the opposing voices you hear in your head. Fear likes to jump around, screaming at you, wants your attention. I think that quite likely fear is the root of all evil. And we really have to shut it down and let love in to help us heal and recover. Love for ourselves. No one is meant to live a life caged inside their negative thoughts. Every last one of us is meant to heal and recover. We're all deserving of a good life. As I said earlier, another key to my recovery was journaling. You see, the best thing that we can do is get our stories out of our heads, whether that's writing them down, sharing them with someone we trust. We will get to process them. And when you read through your story, you can actually begin to process it. And the key to that is asking yourself, is it true? Is it kind? Is it helpful? Remember, our thoughts can't kill us, but not talking about them can. We have to uncover before we can recover. And that's what connecting with your true north does for you. It guides and supports you when you uncover your story. So after working very hard and taking action that I did not always want to take, by the way, And knowing that you can have all the knowledge in the world, but you have to practice it. I decided I was going to have that courage. It was then that I had decided that if something so awful had happened to me and I was able to use all those tools that I had found in my research to recover, regular meetings with my doctor, joining groups that supported what I felt was my craziness, and family support, which was huge, then I would share it with others who were suffering, just as I had. Something good had to come out of this. It was actually my sister who said to me one time, you should write a book about your experiences and share it with other people. Me? No. Well, with a little bit of courage, I decided to go for it. And that led to my passion for helping others through my workshops, presentations, one-on-one coaching, my planners, affirmation decks, gratitude journals, and of course, my latest book, Connecting with Your True North. Connecting with Your True North actually started off with a conversation with a gentleman named Chris Morasti, who pre-COVID had started a group for men in La Ronge called Men of the North. And we discussed how there just isn't enough help for men. Men don't cry, men don't talk about their problems. And so it just led me to thinking that there was something more I could do to help. And that's when I created a deck of affirmation cards for this group that was in La Ronge. And from that, I decided, I can do more. And so I thought, I'm going to take those affirmations and turn them into a book. So this book has become an accessible tool for those in need of help now, not in a year from now. It's like having your own personal coach or mentor, your support system. And so with that, I decided to make it readable, accessible to anyone who was out there needing it. And it's really meant for anybody. So my passion and purpose was to be brave and vulnerable and move some mountains, some mental health mountains. And that's what healing and recovery is, being brave and vulnerable, being willing to uncover your story so you can recover from it. Research tells us that mental health is worsening. 1 in 3 Canadians will experience mental illness in their lifetime. 1 in 3. And yet those who struggle feel alone, hopeless, isolated, and disconnected from the world and are not getting the help they need. And it's worse for Indigenous peoples. And statistics show that pretty much across the ages, about 12% of Canadians die by suicide each year. This is not acceptable. We can do better. We must do better. It's time to talk. It's time to share our stories, to support each other. I see you, I hear you, you matter. You're not alone. There's help and there is hope. Let's talk, but also let's listen. Really listen to those who need our help. Eleanor Noss said it beautifully. Tell your story, shout it out, write it, whisper it if you have to, but tell it. Some won't understand it, some will outright reject it, and many will thank you for it. And then the most magical thing will happen. One by one, voices will start whispering, me too, me too. And your tribe will gather, and you'll never feel alone again. I see you, I hear you, you matter. You're not alone. The pebble I gave you this evening, and I've given out literally hundreds of these pebbles at my events and presentations, is a reminder that you matter. You're not alone. There's help, there's hope. So put it someplace to remind you of that. Put it someplace where you see it often. I see you, I hear you, you matter. And so at this time, I would briefly like to share a very happy story, actually, about mental health, addictions, and grief. Because those things are not always about sadness and failure and feelings like we're never going to recover. There are wonderful, powerful stories out there of people who wake up every morning and put one foot in front of the other And the one I'm about to share with you is just that, wonderful, powerful, and full of hope. So to set the stage a little bit, pre-COVID, I had been going to the CrossFit gym, and then during COVID, and then I decided, no, I needed to go back. It was good for me. I needed to go back. So while I was back, a friend of mine said, Tammie, there is a fellow here that you need to meet. His name is Joey. And Joey is in recovery, and I think he could really use a deck of your affirmation cards. Okay, that would be great. So I was introduced to Joey, and he got a deck of affirmations. So then it just so happened that pretty regularly for a while, Joey and I would be at CrossFit at the same time. In fact, we worked out side by side. So we would chat, and I got to know Joey, and he's just this really nice guy that, you know, really likes to work out, loves sports, and just seemed like a true gem. And so I said, you know, Joey, I said, I'm just having this book published, and I'm going to bring you a copy. So the next time we're at the gym, I said, Joey, I brought you that book today. I'll give it to you after gym class. And we were working out, and you know, you lift a few weights and you pause. And so Joey came over and chatted. So he said, you know, your car was stolen, or your son's car was stolen. Like, that was my daughter, but it was my son's car. Your son's car was stolen 4 years ago for your driveway. And I said, yes, it was. I said, like, December 26th at 5:30 in the morning, my son was going to catch a flight, and his command start didn't work, so he had the key in the ignition. And in the brief time that took him to come in and get his suitcase, he went back up and his car was missing. I said, yeah, that did happen. I'm thinking, where is this going? And Joey looked at me and he said, well, I was the one who stole your son's car. I'm like, no, you weren't. Not the Joey I know, not this great guy that I've been working out beside. He said, yes. And he said, I just want to say how sorry I am for doing that. And we chatted a little bit more, and Joey told me about his rock bottom, which he's going to share with you guys tonight, and how he had been 4 years clean and sober. And I looked at Joey and I said, Joey, if it took stealing my son's car for you to hit rock bottom and recover, I'm glad you stole my son's car. Everything worked out for that. So I would like to introduce you to Joey. Joey is living proof that we do recover. And tonight I mentioned we do recover quite a few times. Joey posts that on his Facebook, and I love it. We do recover. So this is Joey, who stole my son's car and who now speaks to schools at mental health events, shares his story of strength and courage and vulnerability with those who are also struggling, that they know they're not alone. They can say, me too, and know that there's help and there's support for that. Joey.
Hi, my name is Joey. It's an honor to be here, you know, from 4.5 years ago where I was. Just to introduce myself, my name is Joey General. I'm from 41 years old. I'm from the Saskatoon Cree Nation. I've been kicked to the curb from drugs and alcohol. And you know, one of the worst drugs out there is crystal meth, and that's what I was addicted to for 5 years. And you know, from growing up where I grew up, you know, playing hockey in Prince Albert, from getting raised from grandparents that put me through hockey. I went all over Western Canada playing hockey. You know, I was actually growing up in a good home where there was no alcohol or drugs, but you know, I was abandoned when I was 5 years old from my parents, which you know, I'm finding out now where my addictions came from. My mom's a drug addict, my dad's an alcoholic still. And you know, I love them still, but you know, that's where my addiction came from. And you know, I have broken that cycle today, you know, in my family with you know, continuing that addiction. And anyways, you know, meeting Tammie, you know, like I did so much bad things when I was addicted to crystal meth. You know, and one of the things was stealing that car, and I've always had it in the back of my head, because that vehicle on December 31st, 2018, I was arrested in Saskatoon here just down the street. Actually, that's where my destructive path came to an end, and I was in her son's car. And I ended up doing 18 months in jail for it. But that 18 months, doing that, I'm not proud of it, but that event turned my life around. I got incarcerated for 18 months. I did a year, and with that year, I had enough time to be away from society, my old friends. I decided that I want to change my life around. I wanted to share my story to other people that are struggling with addictions, because it's taking a lot of our people, taking a lot of young people. It's ruining our communities, especially my own community, Takakoo and Prince Albert. It's something that I've always wanted to be open about and share about, because there's people that struggle in silence. I read this card here: I am a leader. I inspire others with my words and actions. I encourage, support, and empower all those around me. I lead by example. When Cheryl gave me those cards, I read those cards for a good month or two, and those cards helped me so much. I didn't really meet her yet. Cheryl just said my friend Tammie has, and you got to meet her. And then I finally met her. And when I finally met her, I put two and two together when she added me on Facebook. Leonard, I was like, is that Tim Leonard's wife? And I was thinking, man, I stole their son's vehicle, because, I knew it, because I knew Tim Leonard. He was the coach of the Mintos, and, and it took me about 2 weeks to build enough courage to come up to her at CrossFit and say, I was the one that stole your car, your son's car. I knew it was going to be a good amends, because I've changed my life around. And ever since that incident, I've never ever touched drugs or alcohol. I work hard on my recovery. And like God has a purpose in my life, in everybody's life. And by the grace of God, I was arrested, and I've changed my life around. I believe in God too, because God saved my life. When I was in jail, I got on my hands and knees and I prayed to God, to come into my life, to come into my heart, because my grandfather was sick, my mom was sick in the hospital, and I was incarcerated, and I didn't know when I got out of jail if I'd have anywhere to go. I had no choice to beg God for, forgiveness, and, to start coming into my heart. And, he's been I pray every day. I'm not ashamed to pray, because, ever since I found spirituality in my recovery's been good. It's something that I think of every day, how I was 4.5 years ago, strung out on the streets, stealing people's vehicles, rolling around with guns. Like Tammie was talking about suicide, when I was on drugs too, I was contemplating, I was thinking about, putting a gun in my mouth and shooting myself, because I was 37 years old, lost in crystal meth. I knew I could do so much better in life, but I was so addicted to that drug that I couldn't get out of it. It was hard. I couldn't do it alone. I tried to go to treatment. I tried to go to detox. I tried to get help from other people. I couldn't get help until I got arrested, and that was from her son's vehicle. That incarceration turned my life around, and, it gave me enough time to get away from society, to work on myself. And, now, like, ever since I've been out of jail, I've spoken to probably about 16 communities. And my goal is to reach out to these young kids that are, vulnerable, the ones that are just getting into that stage of, what they're going to do in their future. And, by telling my story, some of them listen, some of them don't. And, it's something that I feel special about. It's a way of my healing. And like. Like God always has a plan for us, and his plan was, standing, what I'm doing right now, standing here with, Tammie and her family, and getting that approval from them and from what I did, it's something that heals me inside, to keep me going forward in life. It's something that inside of my heart, to get their acceptance from, for what I did, I did time for it, but still it's just what, when I told her, she was, surprised, and, it's something that, I had enough courage. I would have never been able to do that if I was still addicted to drugs, I did so many bad things out there, but that's why I got on my hands and knees and asked God for forgiveness, and He forgave me for all my sins, and I've been moving forward in life, and, I'm just grateful to be here. And another thing I want to share is Tammie got me to go speak to the Mintos, and that's when my addiction started, when I was about that age. And, I connected so good with those kids, it felt so good speaking in front of them, and, giving them that awareness of what drugs and alcohol can do to them. And I noticed that they were all tuned in listening to me, and Tammie told me a little while later that, it was a really good impact towards them. And, and that's what, God's given me. He's given me that courage and that guidance to, share my story to especially these young kids that are growing up that want to chase their goals and dreams. And, to this day, I'm clean and sober. I'm playing a lot of sports, a lot of hockey, traveling a lot of places. I just came from Winnipeg this past weekend. We got second in the hockey tournament. I'm 41 years old, playing senior hockey. And I owe it all to CrossFit and recovery. And, that, like Tammie said, it's a part of my recovery now, going to CrossFit. It's more of a mental thing, and I'm just figuring out myself too, that I have a little bit of mental issues, even being clean and sober, just from listening to Tammie, reading her book, these cards, we all have that little bit of a mental, breakdowns. When I don't go to the gym, I get really, really in my head, that's my mental. And, it's what I go to the gym for, is to clear my mind, to take all that negative energy out and cause, gain some positive energy. But anyways, I'm just glad to, be here. I'm glad to share my story. It heals me a little more, especially to meet the family. And, I got to meet Tammie's husband, Tim, at the dressing room, and, I was honored to, say sorry to the family. And, that's all I got to say. Thanks.
I texted Joey kind of last week or whatever, and I said, did you ever think 4.5 years ago that you would be at McNally with me? Talking about mental health and addictions. No, just.
No. I was sitting in the crack floor here.
So we do recover. I just love that. So we just can take a couple minutes if there's anyone that has any questions before we move on with our evening for Joey. I love that. I love that he is able to come and share this with us tonight, and to bring that awareness to addictions and mental health. So question.
I guess I have a question, but I also have a comment. You should feel extremely proud.
I know.
And I don't know if you really understand the impact that you're gonna make in the world now, the waves, the children, the generations, like, wow.
I agree.
Whew. But I do want to ask you, so when the lady at the gym, when you realized that was the car that you stole, how important was her forgiveness of that?
Oh, it took a big weight off my shoulders. Even if I didn't meet her, I was still willing. I was thinking, because I went and watched the Mintos because Connor Watson was playing with them at the beginning of the year. And I was already thinking of going down to the dressing room to talk to them and tell them, I wanna say sorry to you. You know, I'm in recovery now. I wanna say sorry to you for taking your son's car, cause I ended up getting aggressive with it here. And caught with it and ended up getting locked away.
I love that you said if stealing the car was what you needed to hit rock bottom. Like, I think it's beautiful the way that all just plays out, but
I know that's what she said to me. It's just.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Really, how that all connection to what I was doing and. Just for me, even to be able to keep encouraging Joy to go around and sharing his story like he did with these young athletes who really did just take it all in.
And that's,
Yeah.
you know, that's something that addiction does to you with drugs. Like I've never ever was like that before. Until I got addicted to drugs, you know, it just completely took my heart, my soul. It was like, I was like, it was my grandfather even said, he said, a couple of times I looked at him, he said, the devil, like, that's what crystal, that's the name of it. It just, it turned me to a different person, like, and you know, I couldn't get out of it. Like I said, I had a gun to my head one time. I just wanted to end my life because I was so sick of myself. I kept trying to quit. I couldn't quit because I was so addicted to it. And, you know, it ruined my name all over PA. And, you know, now I'm getting my name back. You know, I'm going across with all these cops that were.
well, I think that you should just keep sharing.
Yeah.
It's hard, I know, but the kids at that age,
Yeah.
if they can hear what the road looks like.
Yeah.
And you didn't need to go that way, and, you know.
Yeah, and that's how, when I talk to the mentors, that's exactly, I got that clear to them that, you know, where my addiction started and where it started, weed and booze and, you know, how it ended up. And they were really tuned on what I had to say.
Well, you probably saved some lives.
Yeah, and even Connor told his dad told me, well, 3 weeks ago. Yeah, my wife called me and said that he spoke to them and it's like, I want to thank you for that because you know that's someone that's at a young age and Aboriginals are they're easily influenced on addictions and what I do. Like,
Well, and I think we've talked about this before, if you can change one person's life, one. So that's what I was thinking, of all the things I've gone through, if I can help one person, that's.
yeah.
Question.
Not a question, it's a comment. I just want to say how much weight that your story carries, especially when you close your eyes and tell your story. You're not reading off script. You're speaking to so many people and like really speaking to them, like the way you close your eyes and just tell your story. Like that means a lot, and that speaks to people, and that just shows how much you care and how much you really want to impact other people. I think that's really important, and the way that you close your eyes and tell your story, have the strength to do that. That's amazing, amazing, and it like, yeah, you did
And
so well.
one thing that really inspired me to was like reading Sam Furry's book in jail. That Jordan Compete book and all these, like, you know, the ones that struggle with addictions. That pull themselves out of it,
Yeah.
and that, like, you know, it's just
You do recover.
You do
Yeah.
recover every year. A lot of people are stuck in that cycle, and a lot of my family are still stuck in that cycle. A lot of young kids, my cousins that are struggling to this day, that reach out to me, and they just keep repeating it. You know, I can't really judge them because I was there. All I can tell them is I pray for them and I'm here to talk if you ever want to talk, and but it's hard.
Talk and listen, talk and listen.
Yeah.
I'm still driving the car.
Thank you so much, and truly, it's just been amazing how we connected
Yeah, for sure.
after all those years, and so many things had to happen and fall in place for Joey and I to end up in the same place. So I would just like to end with a little reading off the back of my book so that you might understand more what the book holds for people. Connecting with your true north is a journey of self-discovery where you will explore your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors around your addictions, grief, or mental health challenges. The affirmation prompts include thoughts to consider, questions to challenge your negative thinking, suggestions for journaling, talking through, or processing your story. You will be encouraged and supported by prompts while changing your negative self-talk, reframing your current challenge, and questioning your why, leading you towards healing and recovery, all while finding your way home to your true north. Like I said, it can take a year, 2 years to talk to a counselor or to get into a psychiatrist or to get help of any sort. And sometimes we're too scared to reach out and to admit what we're going through. And that was the purpose in writing this book, is that through the 52 affirmations and all of the guided writing prompts and discussing prompts, that it's accessible for anybody. So that's a little bit about the book. So I want to leave you with this thought tonight. If we don't start connecting in a disconnected world, if we don't start talking about mental health, addictions, and grief, if we don't start sharing our stories and listening to those who suffer, where will it end? We all are deserving of our true north. And lastly, a few thank yous here tonight. My mom. I should have ended with her. She was supported everything I've done. She's been my voice of reason so many times when I wanted to give up. My cheerleader through it all. Everyone needs a mom like you. To my family.
Everyone needs a daughter.
Oh,
To my family, who without even knowing it, has been my guiding light and reason that I've continued to show up on days I'd rather not. For you, I'm so grateful. For Joey. Thank you for bringing your brave to the world and for sharing your recovery story so that others too can say, me too. Your story encourages me to be and do more for those walking a hard path to recovery and healing. Everyone needs to hear your story of hope and recovery. We do recover, do not quit for the miracle happens. A big shout out to my publisher, Jennifer, Stoke Publishing, who always takes my vision for my covers and putting my books together so beautifully. Who supports this little gal and all that she does when she doesn't understand the technology and how to get things going. I so appreciate you. And to God, Creator Universe, who for some crazy reason gave me this purpose of creating material for those who struggle and trusting me with the truth. And to all of you for showing up tonight. We are stronger together. We are stronger together when we share our stories, when we support each other, when we let each other know that we matter. Never forget that. You matter. Thank you so much.
I would just like to say, dear Joey, the car was just a car. You are a precious life.
Thank you.
I'll just say a quick word before I let you mingle. I'd like to thank Tammie and Joey again for being with us tonight and sharing. I believe Tammie will be willing to sign some books should you want a copy signed. And I've set up a table just over there for her, so you can keep her there. Thank you all so much for coming out tonight and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
Can I get a picture?
Yes, please do. And actually, do